The morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Gintech Tower, casting long shadows across the pristine marble floors. Raj Kumar, the 35-year-old CEO of one of Asia's largest tech companies, stood at his office window, absently stirring his untouched coffee. The city sprawled below him, a maze of buildings and streets he'd conquered through years of hard work, yet something felt empty. His phone buzzed. Another message from his mother, asking if he'd consider meeting the daughter of one of her friends. He sighed, leaving it unread. 5 years had passed since May disappeared from his life, and his family still couldn't understand why he refused to move on. "Sir?" His assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "The board meeting starts in 5 minutes." Raj straightened his tie, pushing aside memories of May's gentle hands doing the same task years ago. He had a company to run. Personal feelings had no place in the boardroom. He was halfway through presenting the quarterly projections when it happened. His head of security burst into the room, face flushed with urgency. "Mr. Kumar, I apologize for the interruption, but there's a situation in the lobby that requires your immediate attention." Raj frowned. Security never interrupted board meetings. "Can't it wait?" "Sir, it's..." The security chief hesitated, glancing at the board members. "It's your wife." The room fell silent. Everyone knew the story, how May had vanished without a trace 5 years ago, leaving behind only a brief note saying she couldn't stay. The scandal had filled gossip columns for months. "Ex-wife," Raj corrected automatically, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "What about her?" "She's here, sir, and..." Another pause. "She's not alone." Something in the security chief's tone made Raj's stomach twist. He pulled up the lobby security feed on his tablet, and the world seemed to stop spinning. There she was. Mine looked exactly as he remembered, perhaps a bit tired, but still beautiful in her simple blue dress. But what made his hands shake were the 4 small figures surrounding her. 4 identical children, around 40 years old, with features that were a perfect blend of his and May's. One of the little girls was clutching a worn teddy bear, the same one he'd won for Mai at a carnival during their first date. A boy was fidgeting with his shoelaces, showing the same nervous habit Raj had at that age. Another boy was standing protectively close to his sister, while the 4th child was taking in the lobby with wide, curious eyes that mirrored May's. "The board meeting is adjourned," Raj heard himself say, his voice sounding distant to his own ears. Nobody protested. The elevator ride to the lobby felt endless. His mind raced with questions. Quadruplets? How did she manage to hide this? Why had she left? Why come back now? The doors opened and their eyes met across the lobby. Time seemed to freeze as memories flooded back. Their first meeting at a tech conference, late-night conversations about changing the world, quiet moments in their apartment, the way she'd laugh at his terrible jokes. "Hello, Raj," May said softly, her voice carrying across the suddenly silent lobby. "We need to talk." One of the children, the curious one, tugged at her sleeve. "Mama, is that him? Is that Papa?" The simple question shattered something inside Raj. Papa. He was a father, had been for years without knowing. The weight of lost time, of first steps and words he'd never witnessed, crashed over him. "Everyone out," he commanded, his voice hoarse. The lobby cleared instantly, leaving just him, May, and 4 pairs of innocent eyes watching him with mixture of fear and wonder. 5 years, he said finally, his voice barely controlled. 5 years, May. You better have a very good explanation." May pulled her children closer, and Raj noticed how they instinctively moved to protect each other. They'd grown up tight-knit, watching each other's backs. Another lifetime of moments he'd missed. "I do," she replied, meeting his gaze steadily. "And once you hear it, everything will make sense. But first..." She knelt down beside the children. "Would you like to meet your father?" Raj led his newfound family to his private office, his mind still struggling to process the reality before him. The 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, looked around the large room with wide-eyed wonder. One of the boys gasped at the toy robots displayed on a shelf, while his sister pressed her face against the window to look at the city below. "They're beautiful," Raj whispered, watching them explore. His heart ached with a mixture of joy and loss. "What are their names?" May sat down on a leather couch, gathering the children close. "This is Aiden," she touched the curious boy's head. Lisa, the quiet girl with the teddy bear, smiled shyly. Kevin, the protective one, nodded seriously. And Emmy, the adventurous girl, finally pulled herself away from the window. Why, May? The question that had haunted him for 5 years finally broke free. Why did you leave? Why didn't you tell me about them? May's eyes filled with tears. Because I thought I was protecting all of you. She pulled out a tablet from her bag, hands shaking slightly. Remember the week before I left, when your car's brakes mysteriously failed? Raj frowned. That was just a mechanical issue. No, May cut in. It wasn't. She handed him the tablet. That morning, I found something strange in the company's security logs. Someone had accessed your private files, including your schedule and travel routes. I started digging deeper. The children, sensing the tension, huddled closer to their mother. Lisa clutched her teddy bear tighter, while Kevin put an arm around his sister. I discovered that someone inside Gintech was selling company secrets. May's voice trembled. When I tried to trace it, I started getting anonymous threats. Then the car incident happened. I knew they were watching me. Raj scrolled through the documents on the tablet, his face growing darker with each swipe. Email threads, bank transfers, surveillance photos, all pointing to a massive betrayal from within his company. A week later, I found out I was pregnant. May reached out to smooth Emmy's hair. The doctor's appointment showed 4 heartbeats. I was terrified. They'd already tried to hurt you. What would they do to our babies? I couldn't risk it. You could have told me, Raj's voice cracked. We could have faced it together. The person behind it all was too close to you, May explained. They monitored everything, your phone, email, even your house. The only way to protect our family was to disappear completely. Aiden, the curious one, walked over to Raj's desk and picked up a framed photo, their wedding day. Mama has this picture too, he said. She looks at it every night. The simple comment hit Raj like a physical blow. All these years, he'd thought May had stopped loving him, had chosen to leave, but she'd been protecting their family, carrying the burden alone. Who? He asked, his voice hard. Who did this? May took a deep breath. Your chief financial officer, Mr. Chen. He's been working with your biggest competitor in Taiwan. The technology theft was just the beginning. They wanted to destroy you completely. Raj stood up abruptly, making the children jump. May quickly soothed them, while Raj paced the room, his mind racing. Chen had been with the company for 15 years, had attended his wedding, had comforted him when May disappeared. Papa? Lisa's small voice broke through his thoughts. She held out her teddy bear. When I'm sad, Mr. Fuzzy helps me feel better. The simple, innocent gesture broke through his anger. Raj knelt down, gently taking the one bear. Thank you, sweetheart. He looked at all 4 of his children, then at May. Why come back now? Because I finally have enough evidence to stop them, May said, and because they deserve to know their father. She hesitated. If you want to know them. Raj looked at the hopeful faces before him, 4 pairs of eyes that held his features mixed with May's. 5 years of bedtime stories, first words, and tiny victories he'd missed. But they were here now. I want to know everything, he said firmly. Every detail, every memory. And then, his eyes hardened. Then we're going to deal with Chen. Together. The next morning, Raj arranged to meet his family in a private park he owned near his home. He arrived early, setting up a small picnic area with everything children might like: sandwiches, fruit, juice boxes, and cookies. His hands trembled slightly as he arranged everything perfectly, wondering if he'd chosen the right foods. When May arrived with the children, the morning sun was casting warm shadows through the trees. The kids seemed more relaxed today, dressed in casual play clothes instead of the formal outfits from yesterday. I brought breakfast, Raj said awkwardly, gesturing to the picnic spread. Cookies for breakfast. Amy's eyes lit up, but May gave her a gentle look. Sandwiches first, sweetie, she said, and Raj filed away this small piece of parenting knowledge like a precious gem. The children settled onto the picnic blanket, and Raj watched in fascination as each revealed their personality through simple actions. Aiden methodically took apart his sandwich to examine its contents before eating. Lisa arranged her fruit in perfect rows. Kevin made sure his siblings had napkins before taking one himself, and Amy somehow managed to get jam on her nose while eating. Tell me about them, Reg said softly to May as they watched the children eat. Everything I missed. May smiled, her eyes distant with memories. Aiden spoke first. He said, "Why, of course." He never stops asking questions. Lisa walked first, but only because Kevin was too busy making sure she wouldn't fall. Annie, she laughed. Annie did everything in her own time, her own way. They're all so different, Raj marveled. Papa. Aiden had finished his sandwich and scooted closer. Mama says you make robots, real ones. Raj's face lit up. I do. Would you like to see some pictures? Soon all 4 children were crowded around his phone, gasping and pointing at videos of his latest robotics projects. Aiden asked detailed questions about how they worked. Kevin wanted to know if they could help people. Lisa wondered if robots got lonely, while Amy declared she wanted one as a pet. No robot pets, May said firmly, making all 4 pout in perfect unison. What about a real pet? Reg suggested, then immediately looked at May. If that would be okay. The children's eyes grew huge with hope. May tried to look stern but couldn't hide her smile. We'll discuss it. As the morning went on, the initial awkwardness melted away. Raj taught them how to make paper airplanes, delighting in their squeals as they raced around the park. He learned that Lisa loved drawing and promised to buy her proper art supplies. Kevin showed him a small scar on his knee from protecting Amy when she fell off a swing. Aiden shared his dream of building a robot that could do homework. You missed so much, May said softly as they watched the children play. Their first steps, first words, first days of school. Tell me about their first day, Raj asked, hungry for every detail. Lisa cried because her shoes didn't match her backpack. Kevin refused to go into his classroom until he checked that Aiden and Amy were okay in theirs. Aiden asked his teacher so many questions she looked dizzy by lunchtime. And Amy, Mai laughed. Amy organized a protest because the classroom didn't have enough colors of crayons. Raj laughed, but his eyes were wet. They're amazing. You did such a wonderful job with them. They needed their father, Mai's voice cracked. Every birthday, every achievement, they would ask about you. I showed them photos, told them stories. They know you didn't abandon them, that you would have been there if you could. A shout interrupted them. Amy had climbed too high in a tree. Before either parent could move, Kevin was already there, helping her down while giving her a stern lecture about safety that sounded exactly like Raj. I want to be part of their lives, Raj said firmly. Not just the fun parts, everything. School meetings, doctor appointments, bedtime stories. I want to learn how to be their father. Even with everything else going on, Mai asked quietly. The company, the investigation. Then more important, Raj said without hesitation. Everything else can wait. Lisa ran up to them then, holding a slightly squashed flower. For you, Papa, she said shyly. To put in your office. Raj carefully took the flower, this first gift from his daughter, and knew with absolute certainty that he'd never received anything more precious in his life. Thank you, sweetheart, he managed to say past the lump in his throat. It's perfect. Late that night, after settling the children in a secure penthouse apartment, Raj and Mai sat surrounded by stacks of documents and multiple laptop screens. The city lights twinkled below them as they pieced together 5 years of corporate betrayal. Look at this, Mai pointed to a series of transactions on her screen. Every time Gintech announced a new project, large sums of money moved through these offshore accounts. Raj leaned closer, his tie loosened and sleeves rolled up. These dates match perfectly with our product leaks. He ran a hand through his messy hair. I trusted Chen with everything. He was like an uncle to me. A small noise made them both turn. Aiden stood in the doorway, clutching his space-themed blanket. I had a bad dream, he whispered. Work forgotten, Raj moved to his son. Want to tell me about it? Aiden climbed onto his lap, something that still felt new but somehow perfectly natural. The bad people were chasing us again, he said softly. Like before, when we had to move at night. Raj's heart clenched. He looked at May, who had tears in her eyes. Their children had spent years running, living in fear because of Chen's greed. Nobody will chase you anymore, Raj promised, holding his son close. Papa won't let them. After Aiden fell asleep again, tucked safely between his siblings in their new room, Raj returned to the investigation with renewed determination. "We need more proof," he said. "Something concrete that will convince the board." Mee typed rapidly on her laptop. "Chen's careful, but his assistant might be our way in. Look at these emails. She's been helping him coordinate everything, but I don't think she knows the full scope." "Mrs. Wong?" Raj frowned. "She's been with the company longer than me." "And she's been getting nervous." May showed him more emails. "See these? She's been asking questions about some unusual contracts. Chen's been brushing her off, but she started keeping her own records." A plan began forming in Raj's mind. Tomorrow's the quarterly audit meeting. Chen always has Mrs. Wong prepare the financial reports. "If we could get her to help us," Mai began. A cry from the children's room interrupted them. This time it was Lisa, followed quickly by Emmy. When they reached the room, all 4 children were awake and huddled together on one bed. "The thunder's too loud," Lisa explained, pointing to the storm that had started outside. Raj and May exchanged glances. The investigation would have to wait. They gathered pillows and blankets, building a cozy fort in the living room where all 6 of them could sleep together. As Raj lay there, surrounded by his family, he listened to the small sounds of their breathing. Kevin's slight snore, Amy's whispered sleep-talking, Lisa's gentle sighs, and Aiden's quiet murmurs. Each sound was precious, each moment making up for lost time. "We'll finish this tomorrow," he whispered to Mai across the sleeping children. "First thing in the morning, I'll talk to Mrs. Wong." "Be careful," May warned. "Chen has eyes everywhere." "I know," Raj squeezed her hand. "But I'm not hiding anymore. He took 5 years from us. He made our children live in fear. It ends now." Amy stirred in her sleep, reaching out until she found Raj's hand. Even unconscious, the children were learning to trust his presence, to reach for him instinctively. It made his determination even stronger. Tomorrow, he would begin dismantling Chen's empire of lies. But tonight, he had something more important: the simple, profound joy of being there when his children needed him, of feeling their complete trust as they slept peacefully under his protection. Through the window, he could see the storm beginning to clear, stars peeking through breaks in the clouds. Tomorrow would bring its challenges, but right now, in this moment, everything that truly mattered was safe within his arms. The next morning started peacefully enough. Raj watched his children eat breakfast, still amazed by their small habits. How Kevin always cut his toast into perfect squares, how Emmy dumped everything in her milk, how Lisa arranged her fruit into rainbow patterns, and how Aiden counted his cereal pieces before eating them. But peace shattered when Raj's phone buzzed with an urgent message from Mrs. Wong. "They know. Get out now." Seconds later, the penthouse security system blared. May sprang into action, her years of protecting the children taking over. "Kids, remember our drill? Just like practice." The children moved with surprising speed and discipline, grabbing pre-packed backpacks from under their beds. Even little Emmy didn't cry, though her lips trembled as she clutched her favorite stuffed penguin. "The helicopter pad," Raj said, already calling his security team. "We'll take the private chopper to the safe house." They hurried through the emergency stairwell, the children holding hands in their practice pairs, Kevin with Amy, Aiden with Lisa. Maine led the way while Raj brought up the rear, his heart pounding not with fear for himself, but for his family. Halfway up, Lisa stumbled. Without hesitation, Raj scooped her up, her small arms wrapping trustingly around his neck. "I'm scared, Papa," she whispered. "I've got you, sweetheart," he promised. "I won't let anything happen to you." They emerged onto the rooftop just as a black helicopter touched down. But something felt wrong. The pilot wasn't Raj's usual one. "Back," he shouted, pulling Lisa closer as armed men jumped out. May yanked the other children behind a ventilation unit, her body shielding them. "Mr. Kumar," Chen's voice carried across the rooftop as he stepped out of the helicopter. "Such a touching family reunion. Shame it has to end." "How could you?" Raj called out, anger burning in his chest. "I treated you like family." "Family?" Chen laughed. "Family doesn't make you rich. Those tech secrets I sold, they made me very, very rich." Aiden suddenly spoke up from behind May. "But money can't buy love." The simple, childish statement made Chen pause. In that moment of distraction, everything happened at once. Reg's security team burst through the door behind them. A second helicopter appeared, the real one this time, and Mrs. Wong's voice came through the building's speaker system, broadcasting Chen's confession to the entire company. No. Chen lunged forward, but Reg's security team was faster. In minutes, they had Chen and his men subdued. The board is already calling an emergency meeting, Mrs. Wong's voice announced. The police are on their way. Later, safe in their backup apartment, the family huddled together on the couch. The children were unusually quiet, processing the morning's events. "You were so brave," May told them, kissing each small head. "All of you. Even when I was scared." Emmy asked in a small voice. "Being brave doesn't mean not being scared," Rage explained, pulling her onto his lap. "It means doing what's right even when you are scared." "Like Mama did?" Aiden asked, "when she took us away to keep us safe." "Exactly like that," Raj smiled at May. "Your mama is the bravest person I know." "And now we don't have to run anymore?" Kevin asked hopefully. "No more running," Raj promised. "From now on, we face everything together." Lisa, still clinging to Raj, looked up at him. "Can we have ice cream for dinner? Because we were brave." The simple request broke the tension, making everyone laugh. "Just this once," May agreed. As they sat eating ice cream and watching cartoons, Raj looked at his family, really looked at them. The children's faces were already losing the tension of the morning, replaced by sticky smiles and chocolate-covered giggles. Mai had relaxed too, her head resting against his shoulder. They'd faced their worst fear and survived it together. Now they could finally start building the life they should have had all along, not as separate pieces running from danger, but as one family, strong and united. 1 month after Chen's arrest, life had settled into a new routine. The penthouse now echoed with children's laughter instead of business calls. Rage had transformed his home office into a playroom, though he kept one corner for urgent work matters. Today was a big day, the children's first day at their new school. Rage watched in amazement as Mai expertly managed the morning chaos, fixing 4 different hairstyles, checking 4 backpacks, and somehow remembering each child's specific lunch preferences. "Emmy, your shoes are on the wrong feet again," Mai called out while adjusting Lisa's hair ribbon. "Kevin, please help your sister." "I can do it myself," Emmy protested, but let her brother help anyway. Aiden was reading the school's welcome packet for the 5th time. "Papa, it says they have a robotics club. Can I join?" Of course, Rage smiled, helping him pack his science books. "Maybe we can work on projects together." The doorbell rang, their new security team, ready to escort the family to school. Rage had completely overhauled the company's security protocols, hiring the best team to protect his family. "Remember," May told the children, "stay together and listen to our guards." All 4 finished in unison, giggling. At the school gates, Raj found himself holding back tears. His children were starting a new chapter, one where they could just be normal kids without looking over their shoulders. "They'll be fine," May squeezed his hand. "The school has excellent security, and the children know how to stay safe." "I know," Raj sighed. "I just hate missing another first day." "But you're here for this one," May reminded him. They watched as Kevin organized his siblings into a line, making sure everyone had their buddy partner before heading inside. Later that afternoon, Raj sat in the courthouse, listening as Chen received his sentence. 20 years for corporate espionage, attempted kidnapping, and endangering minors. Mrs. Wong's testimony had been crucial, along with the evidence Mai had gathered over the years. "The board meeting is in an hour," his assistant reminded him. "They're voting on the new security protocols and family-friendly workplace policies." "Reschedule it," Raj said, checking his watch. "It's pickup time at school." His assistant smiled knowingly. The company had changed since May's return. Rage now prioritized family over profit margins, and surprisingly, the company was doing better than ever. At school, he joined the line of parents waiting at the gate. Other parents nodded respectfully. Everyone knew his story now, though the media had been kept away from the children. The classroom door opened, and 4 excited faces lit up at seeing him. "Papa." Annie ran to him first, waving a drawing. "Look what I made." "Me too." Lisa held up her art project. "I joined the science club," Aiden announced proudly. And I helped my class organize the library books, Kevin added. Raj gathered them close, breathing in the scent of crayons and classroom paste and childhood happiness. These simple moments, hearing about their day, carrying their backpacks, listening to their chatter, were worth more than all his business success. At home, May had prepared their favorite after-school snacks. As the children shared stories about their day, Raj watched his wife. She looked younger now, the worry lines fading from her face. She caught his eye and smiled, understanding passing between them. That evening, after homework and dinner, bath time and bedtime stories, Raj and May sat on their balcony. The city lights twinkled below, but the view wasn't what held their attention. The judge approved my request, Raj said softly. All Chen's assets will be transferred to a trust fund for children's education. Seems fitting. May leaned against him. We made it, she whispered. All those years running, hiding, it's finally over. No more hiding, Raj agreed. Just living, just being a family. From inside came the sound of quiet giggles. The children were supposed to be asleep, but neither parent moved to check on them. Some rules, they'd learned, were less important than others. Tonight, they'd let their children enjoy their newfound security, their freedom to just be kids. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, school projects, company meetings, growing pains. But they would face them together, stronger for everything they'd overcome. 1 year had passed since the day May returned with their 4 children. The penthouse garden was decorated with twinkling lights and flowers for a special celebration, the Quadruplets' 6th birthday, and something even more meaningful. Hold still, Amy, May laughed, adjusting the flower crown on her daughter's dark curls. All 4 children wore matching outfits in soft blue, the girls in flowing dresses, the boys in neat suits. Is Papa nervous? Lisa asked, watching her reflection as she twirled in her new dress. Very, May smiled, remembering how Raj had paced all morning, but happy nervous. In the living room, Raj was indeed nervous, fidgeting with his tie while Kevin tried to help. Like this, Papa, the little boy demonstrated with his own clip-on tie. See? Easy. Aiden sat cross-legged on the floor, reading through the ceremony script for the 10th time. I memorized all my lines, he announced proudly. The past year had brought so many changes. Raj had restructured the company to work mostly from home, converting half the penthouse into a state-of-the-art office where the children could visit him anytime. The other half had become a warm family home, with artwork on the fridge, toys in every corner, and photos covering the walls. As the sun began to set, the family gathered in the garden. Instead of hundreds of guests like their first wedding, this time it was just the 6 of them. The children had helped plan everything, from the cake flavors to the music playlist. Ready? Raj asked, taking Mee's hand. She looked beautiful in her simple white dress, but what made her truly radiant was the joy in her eyes. The children took their positions seriously. Kevin and Amy walked ahead, scattering flower petals. Lisa carried the rings on a small cushion, while Aiden cleared his throat importantly before beginning his role as tiny officiant. Dear family, he read carefully, we are here today because love is stronger than fear, and family is stronger than distance. Raj and May exchanged smiles, remembering how their son had insisted on writing his own speech. He'd worked on it for weeks, filling pages with crossed-out words until he found the perfect ones. Mama protected us because she loved us, Aiden continued. Papa waited for us because he loved us. And now we're together because love always finds a way home. Liza stepped forward with the rings, simple gold bands inscribed with their family motto, Together always. I promise, Raj's voice was thick with emotion, to love and protect all of you, every day forever. I promise, May echoed, to trust in our love and never let fear separate us again. Now the rings. Emmy bounced excitedly, making everyone laugh. As they exchanged rings, Kevin surprised everyone by speaking up. We promise to, he said solemnly. To be good kids, most of the time, he added after a pause, causing more laughter. By the power of love and family, Aiden concluded grandly, I now pronounce us officially together forever. The garden filled with cheers and hugs. Emmy launched herself at her parents, nearly knocking them over. Lisa wiped happy tears with her dress sleeve. Kevin tried to look grown-up but couldn't hide his huge smile. Aiden beamed with pride at his successful officiating. Later, as they shared the triple chocolate cake the children had insisted on, Raj looked at his family. A year ago, he'd been alone in his success, surrounded by wealth but empty inside. Now his life was wonderfully chaotic, noisy, and completely full. "Papa," Annie called, her face covered in chocolate, "tell us again how you felt when you first saw us." "Like my heart grew 4 sizes bigger in 1 second," he answered, pulling her onto his lap. "And Mama," Lisa added, "tell us again why you came back." "Because love is stronger than fear," May quoted Aiden's speech, "and family is stronger than distance." As the stars came out, they moved their celebration inside. The children, tired but happy, fell asleep together on the couch, still in their party clothes. Raj and Mai sat watching them, their hands linked, new rings glinting in the soft light. "Thank you," Raj whispered to his wife, "for coming back, for bringing them home." "Thank you," May replied softly, "for waiting, for loving us enough to understand." Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars, but inside their home, they had all the light they needed, the warm glow of family, love, and new beginnings.